pfSense and private internet access. So I have provided all the links in the description, and you will find in the content section also. And as I mentioned that we need to configure VPN here, I have downloaded the configuration and I have provided you the link of that. So these are all the open VPN configurations which are available here. Of course, you can use your desktop, laptop and other devices, and you can download this. These are private internet access applications which you can use, of course, to connect the device directly to the VPN. But we are not going to do that. We are going to connect our entire network through VPN gateway. So you will see these files. I'll provide you the link in the description. So these are all the servers which are available right now. Depending upon where you are located and the place where I'm located right now, I am able to get the better latency from Singapore. If I open this configuration file, you don't need to worry. It is extremely simple. I'll be right clicking here, open with text editor software. So I have Visual Studio Code. I'll be opening it here and I'll show you the content of this. There's a lot of text available, but don't worry, I will explain you each and everything one by one. You can see here remote. It shows me here remote. This is the VPN server address, which is st.privacy.network. If I copy this and let me ping this from my local computer here, ping, and I will just ping it st.privacy.network. You can see here that the response that I'm getting is 86 ms, 95 ms or 85 ms. So this is the response. If I open any other configuration, for example, if I want to connect to any US, for example, if I open us3.privacy.network, let me check that. I will ping this. So you will see here that 296 ms is the latency and here is 85 ms. So I'll be going for Singapore privacy network, which means that I will have the good latency also and my bandwidth will also not be compromised. So my internet speed will be fine. So we'll be using this particular configuration, which is Singapore.op VPN. Of course, depending upon what kind of device you are using, if you are using Untangle, on Untangle, you can simply import this configuration and it should work fine. But we are not going to do that. We are going to do the configuration in pfSense and it is extremely simple. So what you are going to do, there are 3 steps total. You need to create the certification authority, which is of course provided already in the configuration. Then you need to configure the OpenVPN client inside the pfSense. Then it will create the VPN interface. You need to use that VPN interface as a gateway. And then you have to do some firewall setting, some NAT setting, and that's it. So let me show you how we'll do that. So once you are in the configuration file, you will go down here, you will see certification authority or CA. So this is the certification authority and you simply need to copy this certificate from this begin certificate till end certificate. Just copy this here and come back to your pfSense, and in pfSense go to system and certificates. Once you go to certificates, you will see these authorities, which are the certification authorities or certificate authorities. So what you are going to do, you need to add a new certificate and I'll give it a name, any name you can give. So I'll be giving PIA_CA, or I can give it PIA, which is private internet access. Method, I don't need to create the new certificate. I'm importing the certificate because you see here in the text editor, we have this certificate already available. We need to just import this certificate here. So we'll go here to pfSense. We'll click here on the method and import existing certificate authority. And here in the certificate data, you need to simply come here and paste it over here. That's it. All of this is fine. You don't need to make any changes here. Just simply click on save. The moment you click on save, you will see here all the details are available here. Private internet access, email address is secure at privacy internet access, and so on. All of these details will automatically come here, and you can see the valid certificate is from 17th April 2014 till 2034. It is more than enough, 3620 days. Still 10 more years it will be valid, so it is fine. Now this is the first step which is completed. Now we need to create the Open VPN client configuration. So we need to create the Open VPN client. So I'll click here on VPN now and click on Open VPN. And before that, if you go back here to the dashboard, you will see here there is no gateway other than the WAN gateway of telecom service provider. And if I go here to interfaces, you can see here only two interfaces are there. If I click on assignments, you will see here LAN and WAN. These are the two interfaces which are definitely configured at the time of pfSense installation. Now we need to configure the VPN. So crucial part here, I'll come here to VPN, open VPN and click on client, and now click on add. Once we click on add, here you need to give the description. You can give any description, but I will be giving. And one thing which is important here is that I'm creating the Singapore configuration. If you see here, I opened this, and why I need to give the VPN client, maybe you might have multiple clients here. You might be connecting to US sometimes to Singapore, sometimes to any other network. So you will be able to have the multiple client configurations here. So I'll be using only one client configuration, which is PIA Singapore. And here server mode will be peer-to-peer. This is fine. Device mode, tunnel, layer 3 tunnel mode, it is fine. Protocol UDP on IPv4 only, which is fine. I'll be using only IPv4. This is the endpoint configuration, and I'll show you why I'm saying UDP. Here interface WAN, of course I'll be using WAN. If you see here in the configuration, I'll be using the WAN interface to be connected to the private internet access. Of course, the tunnel will be created via my WAN interface, via my internet service provider. Of course, I can't connect to any private internet service provider or VPN. I cannot connect to any VPN server without the internet connection, without the WAN interface. So here I'll be going to the configuration, and in interface I'll be using WAN. Here local port, I'll be using it blank. Server, host or address. This is extremely important because this is where your pfSense is going to connect to. So your pfSense is going to be a client, and what is the server IP address or server host name? That is available in that configuration file. If you see here remote, this remote is your server, and here I'll be copying this. OpenVPN configuration looks like same in all the OpenVPN configuration files. So I'll be copying this server IP address here or server DNS here, and I'll be pasting it over here in the server host address. Now you can see here server port, default OpenVPN server port is always 1194, and of course depending upon what port has been configured on the server side, you have to use that over here. So what is the port on the server side? You can see here 1198, which is available in this configuration file. I'll be copying this and I'll go back here and paste it over here. Now proxy, host or address I'll leave blank, proxy port I'll leave blank, proxy authentication I will leave blank, but here is the user authentication. This is extremely important. Once you sign up for the private internet access, so you will have the user ID and password with which I am logged in right now. You can see logout option is there. I do have the user ID and password. The moment you sign up, you'll get the user ID and password by email. Good thing here is that you can use it for unlimited devices. So I already have got the user ID and password, which I'm going to input here, and user ID is here, and I'll be entering the password. Here you go. Once you have provided the user ID and password, down here is the cryptographic setting. Use TLS key. I'll not be using this. And here down you will see peer certificate authority. If you are already using multiple certificate authorities in your pfSense, you will be getting the default one here. So I'm only having one, which is PIA, which I configured in the beginning. If you have missed that, you can go back again and see how we have configured. So that will be used over here. This is fine. Then is the client certificate. I'm not going to use any client certificate. I'll be using the user ID and password, which I have already provided here. Data encryption algorithms, I will leave it default. I won't be making any changes here. Server certificate key, usage validation, it's fine, leave it default. Tunnel setting, so I don't need to configure this over here. I'll not be using any IPv6 tunnel. I'll not be using any IPv4 remote networks. I'm not going to access any remote networks using the VPN. Of course, my whole purpose for this particular VPN configuration is to get the private internet access as a VPN gateway. I'm not going to expose any network. I'm not going to access to any other network. Here, allow compression, all of this you can use default. And one important thing here is that you are also not going to give access to your devices once you are connected via VPN to the private internet access. So your client is connected, your pfSense is connected. Of course, you will now be able to expose your entire local network to the private internet access, but that you are not going to do. So that's why you will not create any routes automatically. So don't add or remove routes automatically. I'm not going to do that. So I will click this, which means that do not add or remove the routes automatically. Then here is the pull DNS. It's up to you if you want to pull the DNS to resolve the internet traffic. This is optional. I'm already using the Cloudflare or the Google DNS, which is 1.1.1.1 or 8.8.8.8. It's all up to you. You can use this or you cannot use this. And down here, you can see ping method, keep alive, leave this setting as default. And one important thing here is the custom options. So these custom options has to be used here. So what are these custom options? So if I talk about these custom options, if you go here to the configuration here, you can see here these are various options which are available. Of course, one is the remote server address, then is resolve retry infinite. This is one of the server option. I'll be copying this one and I will be going here to pfSense again and I'll paste this one here. And if you read this, any additional option that you will add, you will have to add the semicolon at the end. So first command is this, I'll be adding the semicolon over here, then press enter and I'll be adding the second command over here. So what is the second command which is available here? It is persist key and persist tunnel. So these both commands also I'll be copying. So I'll copy these both commands and bring it over here, paste it, and here is the semicolon again. And then what is the third command that I need to use? There are various available, all are not necessary to be used. And this one, a remote certificate TLS server, semicolon. Even it will work with these commands only, but I will be adding few more or maybe one more command over here, this one. And I'll be pasting this over here and semicolon. Now we'll come down here and one important thing which is there is the gateway creation. I'll be going here to IPv4 only. I'm not going to use both. I'm not going to use IPv6, only IPv4, and rest everything is fine. You can just scroll and understand if anything needs to be changed as per the settings that I have provided. I'll click on save now. The moment you save, here you can see interface WAN UDP4 or IPv4 address, and here is singapore.privacy.network colon 1198, and these are all the configurations here. Now we have created the configuration, but is this configuration really working, or am I really connected to singapore.privacy.network? In order to check that, I'll simply go here to the status. I can even go here to status and check the open VPN, but I'll simply click here directly and I'll go to the status here. You can see here right now that client instance statistics. So what is there? Client is connected and my local IP is 192.168.100.100, which is pfSense address, and virtual address is this one. So my remote host, which is singapore.privacy.network, this is the host IP address, which might change. Status is active right now and you can see service is running. Now, if I go to interfaces and if I click on assignments, you will see here that one more PIA Singapore as an interface is available here, right? It means that I'll be now able to use this as a gateway as well. If I go here to system and if I click on routing, till now that gateway has not appeared. The reason is because I have not added that VPN as an interface here. So I'll go here to interfaces. Right now LAN and WAN both are there. I'll click on assignment and I'll add this VPN PIA Singapore as an interface here and click on save. Now the interface has been added. You can see here third interface is there. I'll go to that third interface. I'll name it simply PIA and enable this interface. Don't make any changes here. Just simply click on save. Apply the changes. So you can see here that PIA has been configured, private internet access, which is OpenVPN interface, and here enable the interface. If I go here now to interfaces, you can see PIA is added, WAN and LAN were already there. Now if I go here to system and if I click on routing, you will see here that the PIA VPN is available right now. So the gateway IP address is not there. I'll show you that how the gateway IP address will appear here and how the monitor IP address will appear here. If I go back here to the dashboard now, you can see here that PIA VPN is there, RTT is pending, RTT-SD is pending, loss is pending, and the status is unknown. Why the status is unknown? Because the service has to be restarted, but before I restart the service, I want to get the ping response of this server. So how we'll check whether the server is getting the ping response? I'll go back here to system again, click on routing, and here edit this gateway. It has been added, but we have not made any configuration here. Click on this and come down here, monitor IP. So what monitor IP will do, it will continuously ping. You can see here, it will continuously echo this. It will send the pings, which will help us to understand whether the gateway is live or not. So where I want to ping the Cloudflare, maybe 1.1.1.1. Click on save. Apply the changes. Now you can see here that the gateway address will be dynamic and monitor IP is 1.1.1.1 now. My local gateway, it is trying to ping my router, which is this one, which is fine here. I'll be going here to now VPN, open VPN and client, or I can go here to status, open VPN, and I'll just restart this service here. You can see here, restart this service. All right, so service is restarted. Again, I got the IP. Now, if I go to dashboard, you will see here that private internet access gateway, these are the gateways. PIA gateway is online and PIA gateway is running right now. But we are not done here yet. Why we are not done here yet? Because we have not told the pfSense that use this gateway. Because if I go here to routing, in routing, right now my default gateway is my WAN gateway, which is this one, which is my default telecom service providers gateway, and I want to use that only. I don't want to use PIA VPN as my default gateway, because I'll be using few devices which will be using this particular gateway. So what we'll do now, first of all, we need to create a firewall rule for natting. I want my LAN to be natted with the private internet access, because this will become a gateway. So first of all, what I'll do, I'll go here to firewall and click on NAT. And in NAT, you have to click on outbound rule, because we are going to create an outbound rule here. And what will be the purpose of that outbound rule? Let me show you that. Make sure that you have the hybrid enabled here, because it will automatically create the rule also, and it will also create the NAT. There are some automatic rules which are created. You don't need to touch that. And these are the mappings. These are the NAT rules which have been created. So what is your source and what is your destination address and all of that? We need to create this mapping first here. So how we'll do that? I'll click on add on top. So add on top, the purpose of this rule is that first of all, this rule will be applied, or this rule will be seen, and then the next rule will be applied. So once you click this, you will see all these details. Don't get confused here. We have already seen how we can create the rules in firewall. This is the same firewall NAT rule which we are going to create. Here the interface will be PIA, which we have already seen, and the address family will be IPv4 only, and the protocol will be any. You can see by default maybe it is TCP or any port protocol will be selected, but we want all the protocols over here. Source will not be any here. Your source will be your local area network. You might be having multiple networks on your pfSense or on your network configured. It could be through VLAN or it could be through physical networks, but I'll be using only one network. Right now you can see the address here on the top address bar. I'm using 192.168.240.1 and 240.0 is my network. So I'll be choosing source as my network alias, and my network will be 192.168.240.0, and my subnet is 24. You have already seen I have created this subnet, and my IP address is here. You can see this is pfSense IP address 192.168.240.1, and 240.0 is my subnet, and here the translation address will be WAN address. So you can choose here WAN address. This is optional, but I can use my LAN to Singapore PIA using my WAN address, and here apply the changes. Now you will see here that my PIA interface is, my source interface is NAT to the WAN address. Now what is going to happen? The rule is configured, but right now if I go to what is my IP.com's my location is detected as my local location, which is my telecom service provider's location. Here is the telecom service provider and this is the location. So if I go here to router, and this is the gateway where I want some of the devices to get connected through this gateway to the internet and NAT to this particular address. So how we'll do that now? We have to of course create a new firewall rule here. If I go to firewall rules, LAN rule has to be created. I want the rule to mention that some of the devices should get the gateway differently. It is very much possible and which is very simple to configure that. So before that, I have already shown you how to create the firewall aliases. Firewall aliases will help you to easily get those devices. Now, for example, if I have created one of the alias which is kids devices, which you have already seen in one of the videos, here you can see that these are the IP addresses of kids devices. Similarly, I created multiple aliases here. I have some devices also here. So if I click on aliases, you can see these are the aliases and I created some of the devices here. These are some of the devices which are allowed for the VPN access to Singapore. I created this. I have not explained you how to create one by one, but these are the devices for the VPN gateway. VPN gateway or PIA gateway devices. I'll state PIA gateway devices and I'll go down here, save it. I need to add one more address here. So which is my laptop address. So my laptop IP address is, if I show you, ipconfig/all, and my IP address for the laptop right now is 192.168.240.12. I'll be adding another host which is 192.168.240.12, which is Amjad laptop. So this is my laptop which is right now added. I'll add this as a VPN device. These devices will be connected to the Singapore network instead of my local internet service provider. So I need to now create the firewall rule which will allow these devices to get the gateway other than the default gateway. So this is the default gateway. I want these devices to be connected to this particular gateway, or I want these devices to have the internet traffic passing through this VPN tunnel or VPN gateway. So how we'll do that? We'll create a firewall rule now. Click on firewall, click on rule and add a rule in LAN because we want from the LAN traffic to get the access to some destination. I'll click here LAN, again create a firewall rule on top and pass this. Interface will be LAN because from LAN we want the traffic. Where we want this traffic to go, address family will be IPv4, which is fine. What will be the protocol? I want all the protocols here, any protocol. What is the source address? Source address is address or alias, and if you remember, we created those aliases that we want some of the devices to get access, and we created those devices. What is that? PIA gateway devices. And destination will be any, don't need to change anything here. But if you go down here, advanced options, display advanced, and go down here to the gateway section here, you will see here the gateway. So what will be the gateway for these devices? These addresses coming from LAN, trying to access something, and what will be the gateway? So you can see here gateway is default. We don't want default. We want the PIA VPN gateway to be used here. So I'll choose PIA VPN as a gateway. Click on save. Apply the changes. All right, so the firewall rule is created. Traffic has started passing. And if I go here to the PIA VPN, you can see here that right now this interface is there. Source will be these devices only. So any device from the protocol, any device from the IPv4 address having these addresses will be NATed to this particular gateway. Now, if I go back here to the what is my IP.com, let me try it. And let me see where I'm connected to. You can see here I'm now connected to Singapore. So my gateway is also connected, but in case I want to remove this rule, here is the IP address of my laptop, which is 192.168.240.12, and I don't want this to have the gateway PIA VPN as a gateway. So I'll be editing the devices sources and I'll go here and remove this laptop from here and save the changes over here. Apply the changes. Now if I go back here and try to access, and now you can see here that IP location is automatically detected as my current location, which is real location, and my ISP is also mentioned over here. So this is right now, so what we have done, so now this device, which was already connected to PIA VPN gateway, now it has been connected back to the telecom internet service provider using this particular gateway. So I can configure it back again. I can go here to firewall. I can click on the rules. Here in rules, you can see in from LAN, here VPN devices. So I can go back here and I can add that device again here. I can add my device 192.168.240.12, which is the IP address of my laptop. Save it over here, apply the changes and go back here. Let it detect. You can see here now it has detected Singapore as my location, IP which is detected for my laptop 89.149.41.117, and here also this is the remote IP. If I go back here to dashboard, you can see here my WAN gateway is working fine. It is right now connected without any issues. So what will happen if the VPN gateway has stopped working? So we need to, of course, switch it back automatically to WAN gateway, but with the current configuration, it won't work. So how it will work, I have explained you in the next video. Let us continue to next video and understand how we can do the advanced floating rule configuration.